The morning segment of The View was expected to be a standard celebrity interview. But from the moment Prince Harry stepped onto the stage, the tension was palpable. The co-hosts greeted him warmly, yet their smiles couldn't mask the charged atmosphere that hung between the prince and Whoopi Goldberg. The conversation began smoothly, covering his recent projects, his new memoir, and his ongoing philanthropic work. But when the subject turned toward his public criticism of the British royal family and the media's role in his departure, the energy in the room changed drastically. Whoopi, known for her strong opinions, didn't hold back. She questioned Harry's repeated media appearances despite his expressed desire for privacy. Her tone was respectful, but firm, and it was clear she expected more than rehearsed talking points. Harry, taken slightly aback, defended his actions by stating that sharing his story was necessary for healing and awareness, not publicity. But the audience could feel the undertow of disagreement growing stronger. Asterisk, as the conversation progressed, Whoopi challenged Harry on what she called selective outrage. She pointed out that while he criticized the British press for bias and racism, he seemed less vocal when similar issues arose in the American press. She pressed him on the difference, and Harry, growing visibly tense, said the context between the UK tabloids and American media was completely different. Whoopi pushed back, asking if pain caused by headlines felt different depending on geography. The crowd murmured, sensing the rise in intensity. Harry tried to pivot, stating his main issue was with the institution that failed to protect his wife and child. But Whoopi wasn't ready to move on. She brought up Meghan's controversial moments, such as the Oprah interview and inconsistencies in the Netflix series. "If you're going to come to America and tell your story, fine," she said. "But don't expect a free pass from tough questions." That moment struck like lightning. The audience was stunned. Harry was clearly agitated now, and what had started as a cordial exchange was sliding into conflict. Asterisk. Tensions reached a breaking point when Whoopi questioned the decision to leave the royal family while keeping royal titles. "If you don't want the role, why hold on to the title?" she asked. The audience gasped softly. Harry responded sharply, saying that the titles were not something he clung to, but were part of his identity and service. Whoopi shot back, "Service is about humility, not labels." Harry's face tightened. He accused the American media, including shows like The View, of perpetuating negative narratives. "That's not fair," he said. "You're framing my choices through the same cynical lens I tried to escape." Whoopi stood her ground. "Then maybe you should stop going on talk shows if you don't want people to talk." That comment drew a mixture of laughter and shock. The atmosphere was heavy. One could see co-hosts exchanging worried glances, unsure if they should intervene. The conversation was no longer just about royal protocol or tabloid headlines. It had become personal and confrontational. Asterisk Prince Harry, clearly offended, leaned forward and tried to assert control of the narrative. "I'm here to talk about healing, not to defend every step I've made," he said firmly. But Whoopi, seasoned and unapologetic, didn't ease up. She questioned the commercialization of trauma, asking whether the timing of Harry's interviews and book launches conveniently aligned with major royal events. "You say you want peace, but you show up with a camera crew every time the family's in the news," she said. That hit a nerve. Harry raised his voice slightly, saying it was unfair to judge his intentions without understanding the context. "Context matters," he said, "and you're not giving me that." Whoopi crossed her arms, replying, "And truth matters too. You're not the only one with pain." The silence that followed was thunderous. It was clear this wasn't just a disagreement, it was a philosophical divide. The producers behind the scenes started signaling to cut to commercial, but the moment had already burned itself into daytime TV history. Asterisk, after the commercial break, Harry returned to the stage with a calmer demeanor, but the damage was done. Whoopi tried to steer the conversation toward lighter topics, but the energy had shifted. The other hosts attempted to mediate by focusing on Harry's charity work and personal growth. But neither he nor Whoopi were fully present in the discussion. Finally, sensing the awkwardness, co-host Sunny Hostin tried to wrap up the segment. But Whoopi had one more comment. "Look," she said, "I respect anyone who fights for their family. but that fight can't become your brand." Harry stood up abruptly, saying, "I think we're done here." The audience gasped. One of the producers came into frame momentarily, trying to smooth the exit. The segment was cut short, and ABC quickly shifted to another pre-recorded segment. Within minutes, social media exploded. Prince Harry storms off the View, the headlines blared, and clips of the tense exchange went viral. Asterisk in the hours following the incident, both camps remained silent. ABC issued a short statement thanking Prince Harry for appearing and highlighting his commitment to mental health. Harry's representatives released a similarly neutral statement, praising the importance of honest dialogue but offering no further comment. Whoopi, as expected, addressed it briefly the next day. She said she stood by her questions and believed public figures should be open to scrutiny, especially when they take up so much public space. She clarified that there was no ill will, but emphasized that accountability comes with influence. Her comments received both praise and backlash. Some viewers saw her as brave and necessary. Others accused her of being hostile and disrespectful. Either way, the line had been drawn, and it sparked broader debates about celebrity, privilege, and the media's responsibility. Asterisk, the backlash came quickly from all sides. Royal supporters accused The View of ambushing Harry and treating him unfairly. Meanwhile, critics of Harry said the clash was a long time coming. Pundits debated the ethics of daytime TV as a platform for serious conversations. Some questioned whether the entire segment had been orchestrated for ratings. Others saw it as a genuine collision of values. Either way, the segment had captured something raw and real. Harry's vulnerability met Whoopi's bluntness, and it didn't result in a feel-good moment, it created friction. But in that friction, something meaningful emerged. People started asking harder questions about how we consume celebrity trauma, how we judge public figures, and what healing really looks like when it's monetized. It became a moment of cultural self-reflection. Asterisk media analysts dissected the segment with intense scrutiny. Body language experts weighed in on Harry's posture. Communication coaches broke down Whoopi's tone and framing. Tabloids jumped on the narrative, some twisting it to paint Harry as unstable, others elevating Whoopi to a symbol of journalistic integrity. But through all the noise, one thing became clear. The public was no longer satisfied with polished answers. They wanted conflict, authenticity, and truth, even if it was uncomfortable. That's what the segment delivered. It wasn't clean or tidy, but it was real. In a media landscape dominated by fluff and PR, real had become revolutionary. View didn't just air an interview that day. It triggered a reckoning about media accountability and the blurry line between personal healing and public. Storytelling asterisk, the fallout also affected Harry's ongoing book tour. Some appearances were postponed or canceled. Their shows reportedly requested that certain topics be off limits. Harry's team, meanwhile, doubled down on the message of openness and courage. But even his supporters admitted that the View clash exposed cracks in the carefully crafted narrative. Meanwhile, Whoopi's stance emboldened other talk show hosts to ask harder questions. The age of soft interviews seemed to be fading. Viewers wanted hosts who challenged power, even if that power came wrapped in charm and trauma. What began as a PR stop for Harry had evolved into a litmus test for how America receives royalty. And it proved that no title, no sympathy, and no amount of charm could shield anyone from tough questions when they entered the public arena. Asterisk in the weeks that followed. Opinion polls showed a slight dip in Harry's favorability in the U.S., especially among older viewers. But among younger audiences, the incident sparked debates about mental health advocacy, race, and generational trauma. Panel discussions on networks like CNN and MSNBC dissected the segment line by line. TikTok creators turned the confrontation into memes, while psychologists used it as a case study in communication breakdowns. Even British media, usually skeptical of Harry, seemed surprised by how polarizing he had become in the US. What was once a sympathetic arc was now a contested one. And though Harry would go on to do more interviews, none would match the raw, unfiltered, and dramatic exchange that happened on that morning at The View.